Okay, so let's get to IP addressing. You stop sharing. Let me share my screen. It's showing red now, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
All right, so let's quickly look at this, right? So this one we are doing, right? Right, so this one we're doing is this thing. No, you press here now. Okay, yeah. Don't spoil your pots. You just press here. I was wondering. Right, so let's look at this. So just save your configuration, right? So we are not submitting this, right? So it's what we'll be adding to this tomorrow. That's what we'll start by Wednesday. And by Tuesday, I think by Tuesday. Then Wednesday and Thursday, there are other tasks that will come. In fact, this next week is just one task building upon this, right? So let's make computer networking how, right? So I just hope that there will be time for us to do with what we have here. Right, so I need IP addressing. Well, let's start or continue from where we stopped on the IP addressing. Right, so remember we said IP address is logical in nature, is a 32-bit number system made up of 4 bytes or octets. Right, so and each byte we have 18 bits in each of the bytes, right? So that makes it 32 bits. Right, so Mr. Bolaji, you just pause that one, right? So you will still come back to this. So before tomorrow, right? Before tomorrow, you install that Ubuntu, then we configure. Yes, so then you reconfigure, right? So just come attention, so I will guide you. We configure, just set that one up. So but remember to send me the application itself. So let me compare with one I have. So if it's something that I don't know if it's the application issue, right? So we did. I can hear my voice here. Right, so example of, who is giving me example of IP address? Who is giving me one typical example of IP address? Example of IP address. 192.168.10.1. Right, so you know when you hover your mouse on the router, right, you saw this, you saw /24, right?
Yes.
So we don't know what /24 is all about. So now that's where we are heading to. Right, so it's IP address that will even delay us. Right, as means there's no IP address in between. Tomorrow we'll just shoot. So /24 is actually the subnet mask, the indication of the subnet mask. So it is either 255.255.5.0. That's 3255.0 or /24. You know, when you configure the router, you didn't type /24. You only did 255.255.5.0. But automatically, router recognizes this is a class C and showed you the subnet mask, right? So now it just showed you the subnet mask by /24. So the first aspect, I think, so for me not to miss out on anything, we were using this, right? So this is where I want us to just focus on now, right? So we have different, should we do classes or range? Right. So we have different classes of IP addresses. So the one we've been assigning to our PCs are class C, or we're using class C IP addresses. Right, so now let's know which one is, because cybersecurity guys, remember we said when we discussed on Sunday, IP addressing is used to identify devices in the network, and without IP addresses, devices can't communicate. Right, so that's it. So now we've been configuring class C. You as a cybersecurity guy, you come to a network. If you come to my network, or you just got employed, right? So cybersecurity, you are welcome. Which malware analysis or reverse engineering? Okay, you're welcome on board, right? So I say, okay, please, I don't need to come to your PC to configure IP, to tell you connect to the network. I'll just say connect to the network, configure this. You have to ask me where do I how do I configure? You know, all of those basic things. So that's why we're learning network. So it's not a core networking course, right? So now I said, okay, we are doing please configure class B. We are using class B in our environment. So do a class B. I'll just tell you the network address. I will not tell you a valid IP address to configure. I'll just tell you the range. I'll say, okay, let's do class B. We are doing class B. We have class B here, right? So we have 5 actually, right? So but we are using for networking. We are using three major classes, right? So I'll say, okay, Mr. Ahmed, please configure. We are using class B address in our environment, right? So configure. Okay, I'll just tell you the network address 172.16.0.0. Okay, you can use maybe the octets, the third octet or fourth octet. Then I'll just give you a range. You can reach your system. You just oh wow, I want to do this. Right, so you're just connecting. You just because without IP address you can't communicate, and we are using manual. There's no router that assigns IP addresses automatically. Right, so we have to manually configure. You know, there's the advantage of configuring IP addresses manually. We want to be able to manage these IP addresses. Right, so don't want the router issuing IP address automatically. At times it changes. Right, so it depends on the list time. So now that's where we have class A, class B, class C. Right, so these are different classes. I think I was supposed to show you something before this. I don't know if like this slide is complete. Let me see. Alright, so this is it here. No. I think something is missing here. But I can use this to explain. So this is private IP address, right? So, but I'll still relate it to the class. I think there's a particular slide that shows class A, B, and C. Don't know. Alright, so it's not here. It's not here. So, but we have 5 classes. I wanted to show you the 5 classes. So we have 5 classes. It's not complete. So there are 5 classes of IP addresses. We have take note. Okay, it was. Alright, so I was wondering, some people were already closing off. Right. So we have 5 classes actually. We have class A, right? So we have class B, class C, D, and E. So D is used for multicast, sending multicast signal. So I started with D. I didn't even talk about A, B, C. So let's just know what D is all about. So D is used for sending multicast signals. Right, so
sorry, you said we have 5 classes.
5 classes actually. I said let me start with here. D and E first. Then I will now come to A, B, C, because that's our concern. So D is not what we need here. Sending multicast signal. So there are some environments you've been to. You'll be to AMU. I don't know. I have to manually type I want us to be seeing it. I think I'll check. Right. So I'll check. So you just see the range. Right. So D is used for sending multicast signals, while E is used for research purposes. Right. So or for scientific purposes. Right. So if you're flying, you're on the plane, or you get to a particular height, you can't make normal call, except your device has that input, or there's a particular set different kind of IP, not a normal networking IP, not the 192 we are configured. So there's a separate, so for us to communicate. So and there will be a device that will port you out. So it's a different. It's not a network. If you travel to the Mars, I don't know if anybody has traveled to Jupiter, or you will not use a normal. Yes, like you will not use a normal networking 192 class A, B, or C. You understand? You will not use class A, B, or C. You understand? So it's like that. So now we have the third one is okay. That's for C and D. That's for D and E, right? Right. So now the A, B, C. These are the major ones. So we have the class A, right? So we have class A, we have class B, we have class C, right? So if I eventually say someone should give me example of an IP address, just mention 19, so I say don't finish. So that's the one we are familiar with. So there's a 10 dots, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 3 dots, 4, there's, you know, there are different. So but knowing which, as cybersecurity guys, knowing these IP addresses, knowing an IP address, knowing where it falls, the actual network an IP address belongs to, because why we are ahead of the black hat or those malicious guys, right? So because they just know one way to do one thing and they achieve that because they are done. So we think we know how they come, we know how they will go out. So we know that this is our we know the network, we know all the IP addresses. So I've met someone, right? So I think that was last year, right? So the guy is still student. So if you say he's learning cybersecurity and the like. Like, so he saw my page that there's something he wants me to help him to do. Like that. I said okay. Like, so is it for training? He said no. We will do training later, but I said okay, no problem, because most people will just call me and I say let's have a session. Even without knowing, let's have a session, let's talk. Because I'm just open, right? So let's share. So when the guy said there's this site, there's this thing he's trying to do, he used Nmap, he did this one, he said he's stuck on one part, on one IP. I said, what are you trying to achieve? So he's not going to, I already know where he's going. So he wants to carry out malicious activities. But his problem is IP addressing. His problem is port. So they know, okay, they want to achieve something. If it's social engineering, they want to achieve X, Y, Z, they will send you a mail, if a phishing mail. So how do we know if this link is authentic? So we test all of these things. So they might not know how to test if the link is authentic. So we will test it, we will see the link, and we know. So these are, so when an attacker or an intruder comes to this network, you just say, I don't get IP address, thank God. You don't know if it's class A or B or C. So but we want to know, because if you're working for a firm, because our mindset is not one way, right? So this is how it is, right? So that's why I say we'll be using banks to do all sort of demonstration or maybe scenarios, right? So you gain access to a bank, unauthorized access, you're connected to the network, right? So and you're connected. You know, you want to check your IP address, you go to command prompt, IP config, you say okay, let's see IP devices on this network. We want to see the IP addresses. We use that maybe advanced IP scanner, right? That's what we use that day, right? So and all of that. So when you see IP addresses, devices are connected. Without IP address, they can't communicate. So now they are using class B, they are using class C. So for class A, how do we know which one is class A? Class A ranges from 1 to 127. So any first octet in IP address that you see that is 1, that is 2, or that is 3, or that is 4. First octet, what was the first octet? This one, right? This one here. Yes. This is just 5-bit. That's why I say there's a slide that talks about classes, which I'll show you. But just take note. I'll use this one to explain. So if the first octet, so let me just type it. So 1, 2, I think that slide should be here. It should be here. I don't think it's here. It's not here. So 1 to, let me confirm very well. 1 to 127, that's the range. So let me bracket range, right? So I'm not talking about private or public now, right? So 1 to 127. So the first octet, so what's the first octet? This one, right? This is first octet, right? So this is the first octet. So that means if the first octet that we are seeing here, if it is 1, okay, let's say 1.200.20. That means that IP address is class A, because the first octet ranges between 1 to 1.7. If the first octet is 20.200.50.190, it's class A, right? So if the first octet is 120.150. Still class A, right? Because the first octet is between this range, right? So, but the usable IP address in that class A, it is from 1 to 126. Because 127, if the first octet is 127, please look back. It's for a local host IP. If I'm working on an application which I don't want to launch, or maybe a website I don't want to launch to the public, so I'll access that website using a local IP. So this is a loopback. I don't know who has heard of loopback or localhost. So this is it. 127.0.0.1. This is still class A. Take note. It is still class A, right? But it is 127. I said class A is 1 to 127, right? So, but 127 we can't configure. If I say let's use class A in our network, I'll say I want to test. I'll say okay, let's use class A. The first octet is 127 dot. Just configure the other ones, right? So someone will say, how are we using 127? Because it is not meant to. It's not meant to be used on the network, even though it's class A. Right, so we have to either use 1 or 2 or 3 or 120, 125 or 126. We shouldn't use 127. Right, so we will get to use this. We will get to use it, but just know that it's a local host IP or for loopback. And times we use it to troubleshoot. Right, so that's for this one. But the range is still 1 to 127, but usable is 1 to 126. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So for class B, the range is what? 128. So 128 to 191. So that's where, like I used I don't know why this is giving too much space. I'll just justify it. Let me justify. Right, I think that's been justified now. I want us to just do something on this IP, if not. So if you are still configuring, don't configure again. This is the most important aspect of it now. So 128 to 191. So that means if the first octet is 128, take note. I want us to if the first octet is 128, it is class B. Right? If the second octet is, if the first octet is 129, it is class B. If the first octet is, look at the range. If it is this first octet, you see this 172, it's just an example of a network or a class B. Right, so you can see this falls between this range, right? Yes. So it is class B. So let me use mouse for those that have seen it online. So this is class B, 128 to 191. So that's class B. We are already focusing on the first octet. So if you start even typing the next one, you know what 192 would be now, because we're always saying 192, 192. So that means 192 is class C, right? You want to ask a question?
Why using this class B? Because you say class A, why you can't use 127?
Yes.
So this class, can you use 191?
Yes, you can use 191. You can use 191. So the 127, we are still going to use it. We are still going to see how it works, because there are some malicious, unsecured websites that will be setting up on our maybe Kali, right? So if we want to access those websites, we'll say 127.0.0.1 colon the port number or / you get, so the extension of that's what we are going to access. So because it is the website or the application is hosted here, it is not on the public yet. We can't do www. to access it. You cannot access it anywhere. I'm the only one that can access it. So it's just a local host machine. So that's what it means. And the only IP we can use for that is this. When I now change the application, I now give it maybe 192.168, that means anybody can access it in our network if it's a private IP address. But if it's a public IP address, people outside our local area network can access it. You understand? So just take note of that. Right. So class B is 128 to 191. Remember I said this is the first octet.
Yeah.
Right. So class C is what? What's the range of class C? The range of the. I also want to tell me 192. Mr. Ahmed wants to tell us something. 192 dot what? 192 dot what? 192 to what, Mr. Ahmed? There's something you want to say it again. Let's see. 200. Yeah. So it is 223. 223. So take notes. 223. That means you cannot see a class. You cannot see an IP address that the first octet is above 223. You can never. I don't think if you go to any network, maybe you go to the office, you do IP config. You will not. You can see some, or maybe you check Facebook IP address or check Gmail or CNN. You know, we will see ways how we check. You can never see their first octet above 223. But you can see 1, you can see 2, you can see 3, you can see 4, you can see 5, 20, 190, 200, 220, 223. You can't see 224. You see 224. It is not a local area network. It is from 224. It is class E. So 224 to I think what did I put here? 192 to 223. So 224 to I think maybe 240. Right. So it's for class D. Right, so like that. So we're only focusing on ABC. Okay, so I will look for the table that has it's the same thing, but it's just rough here. So I'll just drop just the picture to be good. So we'll just take note of it, not stories. So the stories is just coming from my mouth. So I think that's what I will erase this. So I want us to quickly just indicate on your book, class A, 1 to 127. Just indicate or somewhere because I'm going to take this off. Right? So it's not look off. Indicate on your book class A the range 1 to 127, or maybe on your Word document anyway. 1 to 127, then class B 128 to 191. Right? So class C 192 to 223. That's the range. So class 4. It's BCT now. No, we are not talking about class B. Right?
That was not for consignment.
No, it doesn't. We will still look at IPv6 later, but not now. We'll look at MAC addresses. So when we get to the aspect of maybe apps spoofing, we'll still look at MAC addresses or before MAC address security. So, but we don't need them. Alright, so I can even erase it and tell you, right? So this is the range, right? So the first one is 1 to 127, right? Class B is 128 to 191, right? So because I'll be asking questions and you'll be looking at the range. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be asking questions, you look at the range, you tell me where it belongs. That's why I say should write it. No, not like you definitely look at your book. I'm not saying you say it offhand. Thank you. So 192 to what? Alright, Mr. 192 to 223, right? So that's for ABC. Now, remember we said there are network addresses, there are IP addresses. So network addresses are like the name of the streets, right? The name of the street. Why valid IP addresses are the what? Are the houses in that street. Right, so if you are like I don't know if you watch that Sunday video very well, you see what I talked about IP address. Right, so if you want to come to this area, or this is Ogula North Vibe, so I will tell you Ogula North Vibe, maybe, or Ogula North Junction, bus stop or Obele. So when I get to Obele, you now say, here I'm at Obele, which house, where am I going to? When I say come to number 5. You are already at Obele. But if I don't tell you Obele, maybe I just call you, I bet come number 5, come number 5. You don't know, you say which one be number 5 again. You just be looking, God will say will be lost. But you need to put a location or a name of it. So the network address which you are seeing here, they are just what we use to identify, like scenario I was telling him that he just got onboarded. I will just tell him the network address as a technical guy, as a cybersecurity guy, so he knows a valid IP address to configure in that network that is usable in that network. So he knows what to do. So he knows what to configure. So that's where we are heading to. So I want us to be able to just close our eyes, and when we see IP addresses, or we see, because we are wrapping it up tomorrow, right? So with other net configuration. So here we have now we're looking at class A private and class A public. I mean, sorry, class A, class B, class C. Right, so I'm going to open it. I'm going to call up a new slide. Right, so while I'm asking questions based on what you've written, so you tell me.
All of them have public as well.
Eh?
All of them have public.
Right, so yeah, so IP addresses have private and public. Right, so they have private and public. Right, so we've gotten to know the range. There's class A, there's class B, there's class C. We've seen the range of IP addresses now, right? That means class A is from 1 to 127. Class B is from 128, that's 120 to 191. So 192 to 223. Right, so now let's see amongst these IP addresses that we are saying, okay, let me show you a typical IP address. Let me show you my IP here. So this is my IP address, right? So 192.168.186 being assigned to me by the device my laptop is connected to, right? So I already know this is a class C IP address because of what? The 192. You get, so I didn't even bother knowing that. So if this is 15, it is no longer a class A, right? So if this is 15, the subnet mask will change because it is class C. That's why we're having 255.255.0. So that's why we need to understand. So, and this will take us to this place. So this is the most important aspect of it, right? Not like most. This is what caps it up. So you see, there's no story here. That's why I don't really know how to read. So I'll just explain. If you understand this three here, if you understand these 4 points, I think it's more than 4. But anyways, if you understand these 4, you understand IP addresses. So what we'll be doing is the advance of IP addressing by tomorrow, then with other configuration. So let's shoot. So Mr. Bolaji, yeah. Right? So what's the range for class A? The range.
1 to
7, right? So let me just say 1 to 126. So we'll not have this confusing one. Right, so now so Mr. Bolaji, you give us one valid IP address for class A. The valid IP address 10 dots 162 10 dots 1. Thank you. So this we already know because the first octet is it's the major thing. That's the first thing we look out for before we even look at the second octet. Right. So now we are looking at private and public. Right. So how do we know if this is private, if this is public? So Mr. Bolaji just gave us the range, right? So now the range doesn't determine which one is private. It's from the range we know where it's if it's class A, class B, right? So but it's the first octet that will tell us, oh, this is class A actually, but is it private or is it public? Right, so now the first one he gave us, the first octet here he gave us is 10, right, or was 10. So now let's say this is private, this is a private IP address. So because the first, that's why, so whenever, let me just indicate, private IP address, right, so it can only be when the first octet is 10, only when the first octet is 10. That's the private IP address.
When it is 20.
When it is 20, when it is 1, when it is 2, when it is 3, when it is 4, when it is 11, it is public. When it is 120, it is public.
Just 10. That's
only when it is 10. So very, very. In fact, the beauty of cybersecurity, the knowledge or what makes us different is because we understand private and public. If I come to any network, if I see IP address here, I'll say, oh, this is a public IP address, it's not supposed to be here. That means someone from our LAN is communicating with someone outside, or maybe somebody from outside. Because I know private IP addresses are meant for the public devices, or devices that are remote devices that are not in our LAN. So we'll get to see it. So let's see an example of a public IP address for. Okay, I will when we get to class B, I'll show you. So this is class A, right? Let me indicate class A. So for those that will. Class A, right? So private IP address is 10.162.10.1, right? So this is for private. So now let's look at public. I say it is only when the first, I'll bold this one, right? So let's look at public. So for public, so give me an example of public for class A. Can we just give me, let's get the example 20 dots 160 dot 5 dot anything. Yes, so but IP address will not be, you can't say an IP address that is more than 254. So anything you are calling, if you are saying 200, 230, you are still correct. But if it is more than 254, you are not correct. If it's 254, maybe it's a broadcast address, or maybe you are referring to a subnet mask. So you can't see. So if you say 160, you say 170, that's why when once you've gotten this one correctly, you call anything you want. Just call it any valid IP. So just call anything.
Anything, we cannot talk to you on
You can't go beyond
254. Yes. The first octet cannot have beyond what? 223. Thank you. So the first octet can never be more than 223. That's what you should know. If this is 223, and you now say, oh, this is 120, you now say this one, I want to give this one 200. I mean 300. It's not recognizable. If you type it, the system will tell you all recognized. So that's what.
Okay.
If you type this to be, let's say 120, you now say this one 300 or 256 or something. So you not accept it. Right. So, but you know the first octet cannot be more than 254. Cannot be more than 224, 223. Sorry. Thank you. So now that's for class A. So for class B, okay, let me add one more example for class A public. So it can be 11. You can see I added 0 in one, right? So, or let's say 120. These are public IP addresses. These are public IP addresses. So just take note. That's why you see I bolded this one, right? So I bolded this first 10, right? So all these ones here already took it out of it being in class private. So for class B, right? So for class B, we are doing what's the range again? 128, 191. Thank you. So for class B, only when it is. Yes, Mr.
For the class A, for the first number, can it be single digit?
For what?
The first
one. It can be one. Yes, it can be one. IPS can be 1.2.3.4. Still correct. 1, 2, 3.
I already say one.
Very well. So that's why we are. So there are public IP addresses. So I will tell you the difference between private and public. You know, we're just trying to identify now. So I want to understand why is there public? Why is there private? Though I've given 1 or 2 scenarios, but I will make it more realistic so we understand. So class B is 128 to 191, right? So what's the example? We don't know yet. So it is only when it is okay. Let me just write it so you see it first. 172 does. Okay, let's take this one down. Very important. This class B is what you shouldn't get confused about. So when the first octet is this, the one, okay, it must. The first octet must be 172. Must. You can put must. The first octet must be 172.
For
then
private
this
or public?
for private. Then for are you with us, Mr. So the first octet must be 172. Then the second octet should or can. Let me say should or can be 16, can be 17, can be 18, can be 19, can be 20 to 31. So let me just say 16 to 31. You understand? Then the rest can be anything. You understand? So the first octet can be must be 172. Right? For class B, private. You see, private, not public. So the first octet must be 172. Then the second octet should or can be between the range of maybe 16, it can be 17, it can be 18, it can be 20, it can be 25, it can be 30, it can be 31. Then the third octet can be anything. So let me bold it, Mr. This one. I have a question, right? So let me just bold this one. Bold this one. Let me say it to be different, right? Mr. This one, you have a question, right?
It's confusing now.
Right, so it's because I've not written the public or have not written I just do the range. If I do the range now, with 2 range, you understand. So let me just look at the screen. So example. So this is the example. So let's look at the screen. So based on what I wrote, so that means 172.16.10.1 is a private class B, right? So that means 172.17.90.90 is a private, right? So 172.20.100.100 is what? Private, right? So 172.130.130.2 is what?
It's
Public. So that means this one should be. I wanted to. So if it's 30, is what? It's private. Because the second of 30 is either from is between the range of 16 to 31. So that's what we are. That's what now. So now look at this last one. So 171.16.98.7. So what's this? 171.16.98.7. Private. Thank you. Private. Why is it private? So what did you write in your book?
Oh,
say must. That I say you should write must. Must. Then the second one should or can. You see why I say you should put must? I know I say this one is a bit confusing, but if you understand why this one is must, why this one should be 172, right? Why this one must be 172? If not, it's a public. If this is 172 and this one is not between this range, it's a public. Just say it's a public.
The second octet must be between that range.
The second octet should.
So those two contain 16 to 31 for private. Anything more than 31 should be public.
Yes. Even if it's 172.
Eh?
Everything more than 31, even if it's 172
is still public. It's public.
Yeah. Just see. That device is up. It's now. Alright. So you happen to. This thing is very big. Confirm we're still. But it's better to we review if you have any questions. We're still like. Yeah, connected. Okay. Right. So let me just stop this.